an extraordinarily valued colleague, and we're going to be talking, among other things, about the state of our politics in this country. She is, as I will describe at greater length in a moment, a player in the state of Texas and now increasingly across the country. Give you a little context for the conversation, though. Donald Trump's State of the Union address last night was a master class in information warfare. His myriad theatrical interventions were capped by intervals of soaring presidential rhetoric and powerful attacks on his political adversaries. The most effective of such attacks came with his call to the assembled legislators to stand and clap if they regarded their jobs as protecting the American people or illegal aliens. Republicans in the chamber responded with a protracted and raucous standing ovation as their Democratic counterparts silently sat it out. The not-so-loyal opposition's seething palpably exposed not only a telling misplaced priority unsupported by most Americans, it also signaled the high stakes in the upcoming midterms. If given the majority, Democrats will assuredly exact revenge on not just President Trump, but the majority of us who put America first. Well, those are my thoughts. For more of them, follow me at X, at Frank Gaffney. Also at usfuture.org, the website of our Institute for the American Future, which, among other things, makes this program possible. And we would tremendously appreciate your support for doing so. usfuture.org. We would also appreciate your support for one of the other projects of our Institute for the American Future, which is participating in a wonderful coalition. We call it the BanSharia.com coalition. And it is mounting a Save Texas, Save America campaign. And one of the most important participants in all of that is our good friend, as I say, Debbie Georgatos. She is the Republican committee woman for Texas, and this is a noteworthy thing. She was elected to the job back in May, as I recall. It's one of two people representing this vast state where I find myself at the moment helping with this campaign. She is the committee woman. There is also a committee man, and Debbie has been doing a heroic job across this state in connection with the election that will take place, or I should say, will finish taking place on the 3rd of March, Tuesday of next week. But early voting has been going on, and we're going to talk with Debbie about what we've learned so far about the sentiments of the people of Texas, the various races that are taking place, yes, some of them for very important offices in the state, but also for the very, very very last item on the ballot. This is a 24-inch, I think, long form ballot, double-sided, no less. And the last item on it is Proposition 10. And it's very simple, but very important wording. It is, quote, Texas should prohibit Sharia law, unquote. We're going to talk with Debbie about that particular initiative and much more. But first, Debbie, you are an attorney by training. You have been a television host and podcaster par excellence with America Can We Talk? You are very active in the public policy arena, and most especially in this particular aspect of it, the campaign we call, that's again, Save Texas, Save America. And I couldn't be more grateful for all of that. Welcome back to Securing America, my dear.
Frank, thank you so much for having me on. Great to see you on this morning after the State of the Union.
The morning after, indeed. So I do want to start by asking you what your thoughts were about the president's 2-hour-long or thereabouts review performance, as far as I was concerned. But what did you make of it?
Had the same reaction, just smiled a lot during watching it. I really enjoyed that he introduced the U.S. hockey team. And, it's not just because we had this fabulous win at the Olympics and the first time since 1980, but there's something about sports and men playing sports. It's a return of kind of the strength of America, symbolizing strength of America, masculinity, which the left so despises, And so when they came in, I just found it really uplifting and exciting. And because of comments in the media before this, as well as when they actually entered the room, these people actually love America. They talked about it after the game. And so them showing up at the State of the Union, smiling and cheering, it was a pro-Americana moment. And without saying it, it pointed out how anti-masculinity, anti-American pride the American left is, or anti-American left is. They just can't stand when America's winning. So that was a great movement all by itself. Love that one.
Well, it's interesting you make those 2 points, really. And it's interesting to me that you're coming at it from a perspective of someone who spends a lot of time talking specifically to women. In fact, your show for a long time was called Ladies, Can We Talk? Something to that effect. This is really an undercurrent of a lot of the left's animus towards the country, it seems. What does that, where does that come from, Debbie, this so-called toxic masculinity theme?
Oh, I think the leftist mindset, I should probably settle on one term, the anti-American leftist, Marxist, socialist, Democrat Party mindset. They are. They do not love America's strength. And America's strength is not just physical military strength, although that is a big part of it, and it's an important part, the need to have a strong military with strong men defending America. But there's also just a deep sense of rightness about the American ideas that makes men and women proud and expect victory, expect winning, because we are standing on the right side of things. And the left is working very hard to destroy that mindset of loving America and valuing America. It's not where their head is, and they cannot succeed in their slow rolling takedown of America. They're slow rolling, marching through the institutions and destroying American pride and strength if Americans feel that pride. And masculinity is a big part of it. The idea of just men willing to fight, willing to stand strong, defends America. And that's the last thing that the left wants to have happen.
And, Debbie, as you're talking, I'm thinking about the emphasis that has been made by successive Democratic presidents to, gut, for want of a better term, our military. And one of the ways of doing that, of course, has been to insist that women have to be engaged in all aspects of it, including ground combat, for heaven's sakes. And this seems to fit kind of a pattern that you're talking about here. If you have women demonstrably not masculine, mostly, and certainly toxic, playing roles that you want people who have those qualities to play in the defense of our nation. It's just another way of, kind of undermining the institution, isn't it? As well as, potentially putting the country at risk.
Absolutely. The failure to just accept biological reality. Men and women are different, and thank God they are. But the idea that men and women are different, and I love the idea of women serving in the highest offices of our country. I love women rising and using their God-given skills and talents and intelligence and capacities. But biological reality in military warfare is a different thing. And I think that for a long time, the left pretends there's no difference between men and women on a lot of fronts, but this was one of them in the military. But the other thing about the left and the military, very quickly, and I don't know where we are in time, but about the left and the military is that we had President Obama during his reign of terror for 8 years really weaken America's military by putting in people in office who simply were more Marxist, leftist, anti-American.
Hold the thought. We're coming right back with Debbie Georgatos. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with this Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Most people know the biblical story of David, the shepherd boy who fought Goliath and became king. Well, Angel Studios has created a new animated film called David that tells the story of Israel's greatest king.
followed when I'm looking for the way, when I'm searching for the answer. In the moments I'm afraid, there's a whisper in the wind and a story in the sky. When I'm looking for a lantern to illuminate the night. If you want the secret of freedom and feeling alive, you gotta follow the light. Follow the light.
For those who love great animated classics like The Lion King and Prince of Egypt, David is an awe-inspiring animated musical that depicts David as a spirited boy who fought lions, giants, and even betrayal, depicting how one boy's faith could lead him to be king of Israel. David will be released in theaters just in time for Christmas on December 19th, but your family can get a head start by watching the prequel to the film, Young David, which is streaming exclusively right now on Angel. It's perfect for the entire family and has memorable music. So once you join the Angel Guild, you can start watching Young David right now and prepare the fam for the David film in theaters in December. And by joining the Guild, you'll guarantee 2 free tickets to see it. And it's a great value. Let's be honest, going to the movies isn't all that cheap. But if you're a member of the Angel Guild, not only do you get those 2 free tickets to David, but you'll now have access to every single film or TV series on Angel at your convenience anytime. So just go to angel.com/Rav and join there.
Now is the moment to put your brand in front of an engaged, loyal audience through Real America's Voice. When you advertise on Real America's Voice, you're not just running an ad, you're partnering with trusted voices like Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and other influential hosts. Backed by millions of monthly listeners.
Welcome back. Debbie Georgatos is with us, the Republican committee woman for the great state of Texas. We're talking about President Trump's remarkable address to the nation last night. I must say, I even for somebody who has watched these pretty faithfully over the years, this one stood out as just an extraordinary, it's the greatest show on earth is what came to mind. I mean, to some extent, not to compare it to a circus after all, but it pulled in with these wonderful, tributes to heroes, including some who, the last time I checked were at death's door, for heaven's sakes, like that National Guardsman who was shot alongside a woman who was actually killed. And there he was, larger than life, amazing. And Debbie, the other piece that I just wanted you to speak to as a political figure now is this essentially calling out the Democrats on this question of whether they're more loyal to illegal aliens and their rights, as they're called in this country, than they are to Americans. And it was a dramatic moment. Moments. The Republicans took full advantage of the opportunity to just, showcase how wrong the Democrats are on this. What did you make of it? And could you talk a little bit about how you see the midterms shaping up here in Texas, among other places, and whether this is a moment that, might bear on how it all goes down?
Absolutely. It was I've forgotten the term you used, Frank, but a master class in speech giving. But when President Trump, during the State of the Union, basically said, stand up if you think it's more important to defend the American citizens and protect the American citizens than non-citizens. And looking at the cameras panning to the Democrats, they couldn't stand up for that. It was brilliant. And 3 points I think I want to make. One is, I think the left just marches in lockstep per orders. It's like they're not even thinking, wow, of course I think it's more important. They've just been told, make him look bad, don't honor him, don't support him. So they look terrible. But the thing was, the most important takeaway was the average American voter watching the State of the Union address. There are certainly people in this country who are not radical leftists, but they voted Democrat for generations in their families for whatever reasons they've had. And they're looking at the President of the United States saying, don't we stand up for and protect American citizens? And the Democrat Party's answer was no, we don't care that the American citizens, we don't have any more sense of duty to protect the American citizens than we do of non-citizens. I think that will be a moment replayed in commercials, in political ads, and campaigns across the country, because they're telling you, and what they're really telling you, what the Democrats are telling you was what you watched happen under Biden-Harris for 4 years is exactly what the Democrat Party stands for today. They actually do not care about the sovereignty of America and the protection of the American citizen. So it was masterful. And I'm actually kind of shocked that some allegedly more moderate Democrats didn't just stand up anyway. They couldn't do it. And I think it was a pivotal point in the speech last night, and I think it will be pivotal in the fall elections. Because one more thing, I know I'm probably giving a longer answer than you wanted, but part of what's happening right now in Texas, we're in primary season, and we have a primary next week, March 3rd. We're in early voting right now. People have become already a little bit on the Republican side, a little complacent, because after all, President Trump came along, he closed the border. So all of a sudden, we're a sovereign nation again. We have a border. He's deporting dangerous illegal aliens. And I think for the people who aren't super active, the idea is it might be to them, well, gee, everything seems okay. I can sit back because now we're applying law and order again. We're enforcing our border. So it was a good reminder last night in the State of the Union by President Trump. If you elect these people, even in this fall, so you give them a majority in the House and Senate, or worse, in 2 more years, you elect a Democrat, we're going to go right back to this. It was a jolt to remind people the Democrats don't enforce the border when they have the chance. Not one person sitting in that U.S. House last night or in the State of the Union protested when for 4 years the Biden-Harris administration opened the southern border. It was a brilliant reminder. That's what we'll go back to.
Debbie, I kept thinking as I was watching them, and I used the term in my commentary, seething at the president and what he was really pointing out in this very palpable way was they're just focused on revenge and what they're going to do to him to get even. It's excuse me. It's that old, Johnson line about don't get mad, get even. I think they're both mad and determined to get even. But talk a little bit about what that would look like as you see it. Again, in a state that has historically, at least, for a couple of decades, been quite red, is, I think, overwhelmingly in the red parts, quite conservative at that. But the election, we're going to talk more in a moment about the specific primary Proposition 10 that I'm anxious to showcase your work and the rest of our teams on that score. But talk a little bit about how, the effort to turn Texas blue or purple or whatever is, progressing, and the stakes, if it does indeed transform itself into an unrecognizable new bastion of democratic policies.
Yeah. my husband and I have lived in the state of Texas since the year 2000. So we were here when the Republican wave shifted very early on after we arrived. I'm not saying due to our arrival, I'm just saying it happened. And Texas has been firmly in the hand of Republicans really for decades. It is every elected statewide office is Republican. And the state has been just a beautiful example of commitment to free markets. We attract businesses, we attract citizens from across the country. And I think for some Texans, people who are just, they look around and think, well, this is how Texas is, and will always be this way. But there is a dramatic effort by the Democrat Party in this country, obviously, to turn the state blue. And there are also other forces that aren't the political party, but there are just forces of, with respect to Prop 10, the Islamization of Texas, to just push I've been using the term the conquering of Texas under Sharia. And so this is a at our doorstep threat. I think it used to be kind of, we watch what's happening in Europe and think, gee, that's just terrible. Look what's happening to the UK and Germany and Austria and the Netherlands, all sorts of countries in Western Europe. But it's right here in Texas right now. There's another force that really will make Texas unrecognizable. And so this
I do want to come back to the jihadist piece of this, but there's also, the communist piece. And one of the things that, has happened in recent years was, as you say, a very concerted effort by Democrats of the hard left character, to say the least, to turn the state of Colorado, for example, blue. And they've done it. They now control the state massively. And it's not entirely clear how the Republicans even get a fighting chance to compete on a level playing field. Is that, in your estimation at the moment, a prospect for Texas? I'm going to actually ask you to answer that on the other side of a short break. We've got about 30 seconds, but I just wanted to say what we're going to be visiting about in terms of a constituency that the Democrats are very anxious to cultivate, namely, well, what I call Sharia supremacists, is playing into this larger takedown of the state of Texas from a Republican bastion, a conservative Republican bastion, in no small measure, and turning it into something that it has not been for decades, and we pray will never be in the future. That and much more with Debbie Georgatos on the other side of this short break. Stay tuned, please.
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with this Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Most people know the biblical story of David, the shepherd boy who fought Goliath and became king. Well, Angel Studios has created a new animated film called David that tells the story of Israel's greatest king.
Followed when I'm looking for the way, when I'm searching for the answer, in the moments I'm afraid. There's a whisper in the wind and a story in the sky, when I'm looking for a lantern to illuminate the night. If you want the secret of freedom and feeling alive, you gotta follow the light. Follow the light.
For those who love great animated classics like The Lion King and Prince of Egypt, David is an awe-inspiring animated musical that depicts David as a spirited boy who fought lions, giants, and even betrayal, depicting how one boy's faith could lead him to be king of Israel. David will be released in theaters just in time for Christmas on December 19th, but your family can get a head start by watching the prequel to the film, Young David, which is streaming exclusively right now on Angel. It's perfect for the entire family and has memorable music. So once you join the Angel Guild, you can start watching Young David right now and prepare the fam for the David film in theaters in December. And by joining the Guild, you'll guarantee 2 free tickets to see it. And it's a great value. Let's be honest, going to the movies isn't all that cheap. But if you're a member of the Angel Guild, not only do you get those 2 free tickets to David, but you'll now have access to every single film or TV series on Angel at your convenience anytime. So just go to angel.com/Rav and join there.
Now is the moment to put your brand in front of an engaged, loyal audience through Real America's Voice. When you advertise on Real America's Voice, you're not just running an ad, you're partnering with trusted voices like Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and other influential hosts. Backed by millions of monthly listeners.
We're back, and so is Debbie Georgatos, a great friend and very, very much appreciated comrade in the struggle to, well, preserve not only the state of Texas, but our country writ large. at much under assault, really, by those who would transform it unrecognizably, including into, Sharia adherent political entities. And this is of huge, huge importance. Of course, as Texas go, so goes the nation, is the famous adage. And Debbie, I cannot thank you enough for what I know is a truly tireless effort on your part to make sure that people across this state understand what the stakes are. And having sort of set the predicate that there's a red-green axis operating, and, the red is pretty obvious. The hard left, the Democratic donors, the Democratic politicians, including some very radical ones that are, becoming more and more prominent figures in this state's political arena. But talk to us about the Sharia supremacists and the role that they are now playing increasingly in, both this kind of transformation, but also a larger agenda of taking down this state and the country as well.
Thank you, Frank. I'm so glad we have time to talk about this issue in Texas. I could back up and quickly say that I started literally about 20 years ago, I got tuned into, it was after 9/11, but even a few years after 9/11, became tuned into this issue of the Islamic conquest mentality, which I honestly didn't know about, and was one of the many Americans kind of didn't know why in the world we would have been attacked on 9/11. But over 20 years, I have read many books, interviewed many experts, including you, numerous times on my show, my America Can We Talk show. And in my summits, my Texas Freedom Summit, I bring speakers to talk about it, because the Islamic conquest mindset does not make sense it doesn't even occur to the average American mindset. We love freedom of speech, we love freedom of religion, and we don't want to judge other people. We want to let live and let live. But what is happening in Western Europe, we watched UK, all the countries I mentioned previously, has now come to roost right here in the state of Texas. So just as a kickoff, it happened a year and a half ago or so, I guess, where there was an effort to create an Islamic no-go zone right here in North Texas, where I am, as they call the East Plano Islamic Center. EPIC was the acronym for it. But it's an Islamic center that purchased a massive piece of land and basically advertised on YouTube. Yasser Qadi, a very radical imam. He's a very radical imam. He was announcing on YouTube, we're going to have an all-Muslim city up here. You can live here and, you can go to school and live and work and shop and get your medical care, everything you need right here in this enclosed community. And he is the head of the Fiqh Council, which in America applies and rules on Sharia law. So that was one incident, woke a lot of people up. Well, those are now happening, those similar kinds of things happening all over Texas. That's one piece of it. Is physical land grabbing and creating Muslim-only communities. Neighborhoods formerly unknown just become things where the neighbors who've lived there their whole lives are looking around saying, what in the world's happening? There's also been, with the election of 2 members of the Texas state legislature, efforts to essentially push Islamization, push Sharia into mainstream legitimization in Texas. So efforts to have Ramadan Day and Pakistan Day and honor Pakistan. I mean, there are just as a long list of bills, House resolutions, or legislative proposals being pushed to the legislature that essentially are normalizing Sharia, normalizing the honoring of Islam.
Debbie, one aspect of this that I think is going almost completely under the radar is the effort to get state and other public institutions to uniformly adopt halal food as the standard, in their systems, public schools, hospitals, prisons, among others. Talk a little bit about how that is a manifestation of this kind of stealthy jihad aimed at taking over a population that doesn't want any part of, giving up our freedoms or our Constitution.
It's a great example, Frank. It's a great example of this stealth jihad Islamization. So halal food is food that is prepared in accordance with Sharia, with Islamic law. And as a one point of it, it involves the unnecessary suffering of the animal. So a push to define animal cruelty more precisely would probably help with this. But halal food is honors Islamic tradition and being created. And part of what is happening is parents have been insisting that halal food be offered in public schools and public universities. So you end up with the kitchens having to use two different sets of preparation, two different sources of supply, because most butchers, most meat producers are not following halal. And it becomes easier for these schools. Ultimately, it's what we learned from our mutual friend, Peter McIlvaine from England. In fact, he defines it as one of the mistakes the UK made was honoring the idea of halal food, because what ends up happening is in England, they end up serving halal food to everyone, to all students and people who don't want it. And you're really participating in the Sharia enforcement if you go along with halal food. That's been a subtle thing, but happening in America. But nowadays, if you come to Texas, in big stores and big, nationwide stores whose names you would recognize, you will see packages marked halal food. That's part of one way to protest is to refuse to buy food labeled halal, because you're slowly surrendering to Islamic law when you participate in the consumption of halal food. You're participating in their ceremonies.
And so, Debbie, just go back to something you said at the outset. This is about conquest. Discuss that a little bit further, the historical, character of Sharia, and why those who contend that this is just a religious practice and, therefore it has First Amendment protections, are, wrong. I was going to say dead wrong. They may yet be dead wrong, but they're wrong at the very least.
Yeah, it's a very important point, too, for people in Texas deciding about how they're going to vote on March 3rd. And we have Prop 10 on the March 3rd GOP primary ballot, in which we urge everyone to vote yes on. But Prop 10 basically says Texas should prohibit Sharia law. And it's a pushback against all of Sharia law. It's urging legislators, elected officials at every level of government in Texas to not surrender to Sharia. So part of what I mentioned, Islamic conquest, is 1,400 years unchanged since the founding of Islam. The entire purpose of Islam is to force the world into submission to their God, Allah, and to Sharia. It is, whether it's violent conquest or it's peaceful conquest, it's a form of jihad.
Stealthy. Yeah. But Debbie, you're a trained attorney, a very, accomplished litigator at that. What do you say to this argument that it's, listen, you can't do anything about this? It's constitutionally protected religious practice?
Flat out wrong. Every religion's entitled to protection under the First Amendment, and you're entitled to believe anything you want about religion, and you're never compelled to attend a church, a synagogue, a mosque. You're not compelled to do anything. So you get religious freedom, everyone does, but the First Amendment does not protect any practice. It doesn't protect anything that's otherwise outlawed. You can't say, I can break a law here and do something wrong, but you can't come after me because my religion compelled me to do it. Freedom of religion means freedom to believe and to practice your faith so long as it's consistent with the laws of America. And a very big piece I want to introduce, Frank, is that in Article 6 of our U.S. Constitution, it says the Constitution is the law of the land.
Supreme law of the land, to be precise.
Yeah, it is the law, period, supreme law, absolutely. And so when people are pushing Sharia, they are actually pushing to replace the U.S. Constitution, laws across our country, with Sharia. There is no constitutional protection for that. The First Amendment protects religion. The First Amendment does not protect Sharia. Sharia is not a religion. Sharia is not entitled to First Amendment protection. And then further point for everyone to keep clear, because part of what the left does and what Islamists do to delude people is say, but it's really racial. You're attacking people because of their race. Islam is not a race. There could be blue-eyed blondes from Norway who convert to Islam. They're allowed to do that. Islam is a set of beliefs. It is a patina of religion, largely a governmental structure of society. Sharia introduces an entirely different structure of laws, unprotected by the American Constitution. In fact, contradictory to the Constitution, and no protection. And we have to be clear about that. There's no First Amendment protection for Sharia.
This is an incredibly important point, and I pray that in the course of what remains of the election, the primary election, and the votes that are now being taken during early voting, which goes through the end of this week, and then, of course, completes on March 3rd, we will see Texans understanding and responding to this idea that the whole agenda of the Sharia supremacists is to supplant everything we hold dear and impose stealthily, perhaps initially, but ultimately by violent means if they see fit and they can, their agenda, which is our enslavement and submission to Islam. Debbie, thank you for your leadership in fighting against this and for supporting Proposition 10. I urge everybody to check out bansharia.com to find out how you can help accomplish that. God bless you, my dear. Come back soon. We'll be right back. Or right after this.
This holiday season, Real America's Voice is proud to partner with our friends at Angel Studios for a special giveaway you won't want to miss. As they launch Season 2 of their hit series Homestead, we're giving you the chance to win an exclusive Homestead hat absolutely free. Everyone who becomes an Angel Guild member using our link is automatically entered to the contest. When you join, you're supporting meaningful pro-American storytelling, and you're supporting RAV at the same time. Scan the QR code on your screen right now, or text the word RAV Angel to 75802. After you scan or text, make sure you follow the steps provided. When you complete the steps and join the Angel Guild, you'll be automatically entered to win that exclusive Homestead hat, a perfect holiday gift for yourself or someone you love.
Be one of the first 50 people to sign up and win a hat automatically. Hurry while there's still time.
So scan that QR code or text RAV Angel to 75802. Happy holidays from all of us at RAV.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access, plus commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play.
My name is Phoebe, and I live in Florida. I love Real America's Voice. They truly speak for the people, and that's what real patriotism is all about.
Howdy, RAV fans. This is Warbringer here. Love you all. RAV is the only place to get the truth, and this is the only way we're going to be able to restore our republic. Love you all. See you in the chat.
Welcome back, and what a delight to be able to say welcome once again to Kenneth Abramowitz, one of our regulars on this program, the man whose accomplishments in the financial analysis sector, specifically with respect to the healthcare industry, are sufficiently enormous that he is actually in the Hall of Fame of financial analysts, I think ranking number 15 out of those in this particular space of healthcare. But that's only part of his gig. He is also a very, very important contributor to the fight for freedom in connection with several outfits that he is involved with. One is SaveTheWest.com. Another is Citizens for National Security. And not least, of course, the book that looms in his background, The Multi-Front War, a very important contribution to our understanding of the battle we're in, now in its 4th edition, as I understand it. Ken, it's always good to have you with us. Welcome back.
Sure, it's always a pleasure to be with you.
So I wanted to sort of do a little stock taking. We've been talking with Debbie Georgatos about the president's State of the Union address last night. And I think there was an expectation that we'd be hearing more about Iran in that speech. He did touch on it, and he made the point that people there are being horrifically oppressed, murdered, in fact, in large numbers. But not much mention made of what, if anything, he intends to do about it. What were your thoughts about the speech? And, where do you think things stand as far as the president's concerned at the moment with regard to Iran?
Well, first, I thought the speech he gave was excellent. It was 2 hours, and it was a good show. I learned a lot. He honored some very wonderful people. It was very touching and informative. He criticized the other team when they deserved criticism. So for what he did, everything was wonderful. But as you were alluding to, he missed a few things. Now, his staff probably said to Mr. President, you already had 2 hours. I'm not going to speak for 2.5 or 3 hours, and that's it. And so he squeezed in just a little bit about Iran, and Iran was deserving of more than that. But I can see why he didn't do more than that. But he highlighted that they can't have a nuclear program, but he didn't distinguish between nuclear weapons and enrichment. He could have said no nuclear weapons program and no enrichment. He purposely left out the word enrichment. He could have said no missiles, but he did allude to the fact that they have missiles, and the missiles can soon reach America. They actually can reach America now, because they could, anytime you can put something in an orbit, you can drop it in America. So he didn't scare the people enough about missiles, but he did mention missiles. No mention about drones, and no mention about their 600,000 worldwide terror organization. 300,000. Yeah, 300,000 physical terrorists, 100,000 narco terrorists, which are sending drugs to Latin America and then to Mexico and killing our kids. And no mention of the 200,000 cultural terrorists, what I call cultural terrorists. You can call them, using your words, Sharia supremacists, and that would be schools, media, social media, mosques. No mention of that. So,
well, that was one of my my beefs. I thought that the president sort of owed it to the American people in discussing the state of our nation, that there is this natty problem, that there are Iranian operatives inside our country, as well as, assorted other jihadists, and that we're not, excuse me, we're not, frankly, it seems, making a focus of essentially doing what he said back in August of 2016, that we would, under a Trump presidency, strip out and remove one by one the support networks of radical Islam. And Ken, I just would ask you, as a man who has deeply studied such entities and their Sharia supremacist members, how serious a threat to this union do they represent, do you think?
Well, they represent an existential threat. You would think in a State of the Union address you would discuss existential threats that we have. But he purposely it's, by the way, it's part of, I hate to say this, all democracies, is democracies don't want to level with the people. Because if you level with the people, you scare them. And if you scare them, then you always have a competitor who says, oh, President so-and-so or Prime Minister so-and-so is a warmonger. He's scaring you with all these hypotheticals. It's just not real. And vote for me, you get peace. And that's why in democracies we get swings from tough guys to weak guys, and it swings back and forth. But he had a masterful opportunity to educate the people. I don't believe he mentioned the word Islam, and I don't believe he mentioned the word Israel. He talked about, by the way, he talked about getting the hostages out. And I said, weren't the hostages from Israel? It didn't mention the word Israel, didn't mention the word Islam, didn't mention Islamism, didn't mention Sharia, didn't mention that we have a double-pronged war with Islam. Well, Islam has a war with us. So we have the Sunni variety and we have the Shiite variety. And he didn't mention that if we were to convert Iran into a normal country instead of what I call Islamo-Nazi death cult, we still have the Sunni Islamo-Nazi death cult that we have to contend with. Obviously didn't mention Turkey or Qatar. Didn't mention that Saudi Arabia seems to be swinging back and forth from wanting to be normal to not wanting to be normal. And so there's huge conflicts out there. It's like a hurricane out there. And he's a meteorologist and didn't want to tell anybody because the hurricane's too far away.
Well, but unfortunately, as you say, headed our way. Ken, we have to take a short break. We'll be right back with more with Kenneth Abramowitz right after this.
This holiday season, Real America's Voice is proud to partner with our friends at Angel Studios for a special giveaway you won't want to miss. As they launch Season 2 of their hit series Homestead, we're giving you the chance to win an exclusive Homestead hat absolutely free. Everyone who becomes an Angel Guild member using our link is automatically entered to the contest. When you join, you're supporting meaningful pro-American storytelling, and you're supporting RAV at the same time. Scan the QR code on your screen right now, or text the word RAV Angel to 75802. After you scan or text, make sure you follow the steps provided. When you complete the steps and join the Angel Guild, you'll be automatically entered to win that exclusive Homestead hat, a perfect holiday gift for yourself or someone you love.
Be one of the first 50 people to sign up and win a hat automatically. Hurry while there's still time.
So scan that QR code or text RAV Angel to 75802. Happy holidays from all of us at RAV.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access, plus commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play.
We're back. So is Kenneth Abramowitz, the author of a very important book on the subject of, well, what he calls the red, green, blue axis. And we've been talking a little bit about the green. We're going to touch on the others. But before we do, Ken, I just wanted to say, the president, having missed the opportunity, presumably deliberately, not to get into some of this business about Sharia and the threat that it represents here and the extent to which the jihadists that embrace it are determined, really, as we were talking about with Debbie Georgiadis earlier in the program, to destroy our country, to replace our Constitution, to force us all to submit to Islam, if not convert to it. In Corpus Christi, my prayerful hope is that he will do what he did not do last night. He will speak to specifically this so-called Proposition 10 on the Republican primary ballot. He'll be here on the last day of early voting. He'll be speaking to, the people of Texas in the immediate run-up to finally Election Day on the 3rd of March. What are your thoughts, sir, about this proposition, which simply says Texas should prohibit Sharia law, and the importance of the president endorsing it explicitly?
Well, it's a wonderful idea. It should have. You're 1,400 years late. You could have saved us all a lot of problems if we had been living 1,400 years ago. At that time, the Christian world should have declared Sharia illegal, and it didn't. And so the Muslims spread from Saudi Arabia and illegally invaded about 50 countries, most of which were Christian countries, and killed a couple 100 million people in the process. So, yes.
And by the way, everywhere they've been, they claim that is henceforth their territory, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Once they illegally conquer someone else's territory, they declare that it's theirs forever. Well, who declared that? I mean, they declare it, but you have to fight against it, because the history of evil is stopped when it's stopped. It's not stopped because you convince them to stop. It's not stopped because they have a change of heart and they look, we conquered 50 countries, we're happy, what more could we want? No, it doesn't work that way. And so they want the whole world. And after the Shiites get the whole world, they want to kill the Sunnis, or after the Sunnis get the whole world, they want to kill the Shiites. And it's just a never-ending battle, because that's the nature of Islam. I call it Islamo-Nazi death cult. And the history of death cults is they kill. And they die at the end when they're finally defeated by the forces of good. So it's easier to defeat them in the first inning, like a disease. It's in the first inning than waiting for the 8th inning or so. So America's now, let's say, in the 3rd inning, and this is a good inning to stop the process. Now, I happen to hear...
Could I just ask you about that? Because, your metaphor is a little inexact, but, it suggests it's still early days. There are those, including our friend Peter McElvena and Geert Wilders, for that matter, who are warning us that actually we're much further along down this slippery slope, as it were, on Sharia submission in America. And I must say, watching what's playing out in Texas day by day, our colleague Amy Meck is doing a magnificent job of documenting a lot of this on her X account. But are you sure we're in the 3rd inning? And if so, is it a 9-inning game? Or maybe there's a fewer innings to play? We're going to get rained out. What do you think?
By the way, you mentioned my hero, Geert Wilders, and I happened to hear a YouTube of him just 2 days ago. And they're in the 7th inning. And he said, we have to declare Sharia illegal. We have to deport the Muslims. We have to close the schools, close the mosques. He's got the story, but he's got the story in the 7th inning. Now, he had the story in the 6th inning, 5th inning, and 4th inning, but the society didn't have the story because the leaders were purposely misleading the population to not understand the seriousness of the threat, because the leaders were corrupt and probably getting money from...
Or just scared, as they
scared, yeah.
find themselves being, because this is actually terrifying, notwithstanding, though, that narrative about unreasoned fear, Islamophobia. But I will say, and I don't know which clip you're referring to, but Garrett, it must be seen, the speech that he made here in the States, particularly the one on the 9th of January. If you haven't caught that, Ken, I really commend it to you. But he wasn't talking about the 7th inning. I mean, he's talking about the end game. He was explicitly saying, and he enumerated the ways in which this is happening, 7 different freedoms that are now being one by one snuffed in Europe. And I think he would say, if he were on this show, he would be saying, oh, no, we're further along than that, and so are you.
Yes. Well, in Holland, just given my the YouTubes with Gert, they should declare the Insurrection Act, they or martial law, and basically fix this mess. The trouble you have is when you go through not martial law with normal law, half of the judges are corrupt or afraid, however you want to look at it, and so
and the politicians too. Yeah,
right. And so you need a one strong person like Wilders to say, that's it. You know, I'm Winston Churchill and or Harry Truman. The buck stops here. Declaring the Insurrection Act. We're going to fix all the 50 years of mistakes that our society made, and I'm going to fix it in 3 months, and then go end martial law and go back to what we had before. But for 3 months, I can't. We're not going to. It's like fighting. Can you imagine fighting World War II and we had to arrest each German soldier and give them a trial and then have a jury trial? I mean, it's ridiculous. You're fighting a war here. You have to fight it and get it over with. So
you have to recognize you're in it first and foremost, and then fight it properly. I'm afraid the Dutch haven't been much about that for a long time. Ken, I'm also afraid we're out of time, but this is food for thought, and I appreciate your joining us as always and your faithfulness to the cause of freedom. God bless you, my friend.
Thank you very much.
Next week.
Great to be with you.
Thank you for being with us as well, all of the rest of you. I hope to do so next time. Until then, you'll go forth and multiply.
This holiday season, Real America's Voice is proud to partner with our friends at Angel Studios for a special giveaway you won't want to miss. As they launch Season 2 of their hit series Homestead, we're giving you the chance to win an exclusive Homestead hat absolutely free. Everyone who becomes an Angel Guild member using our link is automatically entered to the contest. When you join, you're supporting meaningful pro-American storytelling, and you're supporting RAV at the same time. Scan the QR code on your screen right now, or text the word RAV Angel to 75802. After you scan or text, make sure you follow the steps provided. When you complete the steps and join the Angel Guild, you'll be automatically entered to win that exclusive Homestead hat, a perfect holiday gift for yourself or someone you love.
Be one of the first 50 people to sign up and win a hat automatically. Hurry while there's still time.
So scan that QR code or text RAV Angel to 75802. Happy holidays from all of us at RAV.
Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access, plus commercial-free viewing of certain shows